What up, you guys? That's Satyad here in Singapore, and thank you so much for joining me on the Night Owl podcast. As always, you guys, trying to put all of my thoughts into the podcast so you can feel what it is that I'm going through, listen in, and kind of understand the thought process that I'm mulling over, or maybe the new idea that I've discovered. And today is no different. I came across a quote. I don't even know where I came across it, but it says, "The crisis comes in bearing gifts, but you need to put down what you're holding on to." And you know what? I had to think about that for a little bit. What do you mean a crisis comes in bearing gifts? I don't like crises. I don't like confrontation. I try to avoid any kind of chaos at all possible. I will cut people out of my life with a quickness. I would rather just leave everything behind the way it is and start over fresh somewhere else because I just don't want to confront anybody or deal with a lot of chaos or stress because I've done all that. I've fought for a living. I've fought to survive. I've fought to build a life for myself. I don't want to do with that any of that noise anymore. So I would rather just cut bait and run, and that's just who I am. But as time passed, as I got older, I realized that each crisis does actually come in bearing gifts. When something comes to a head, it's the opportunity to discuss something that you've been hiding for a while. Maybe it's a situation where you've been trying to avoid talking to somebody because they did something that they should have known better about, but you did not address it when it happened. And so what you've been doing is avoiding them ever since. And now they're questioning you. They're asking, well, what is it that I did? What is it that went wrong? Why aren't you talking to me? Why has your behavior changed? And from that moment on, you get the opportunity, if you're willing to take it, to sit down and tell them, hey, this is what happened. I don't like it. This is why I suddenly feel uncomfortable with you. And that gives them the opportunity to maybe fix the situation or at least discuss what might be possible going forward. And then it becomes an idea of how important is this relationship to you? What are you willing to do to make sure that, you keep it intact? What is the priority here? Do you really need this person in your life? Is it somebody that have invested lots of time into? Is this somebody that you really care about? Or is it somebody that in passing something happened, it was really minute, but you don't like the vibe you're getting now, and so you're going to cut bait and run? So these are the questions that I want to talk about because, yes, every crisis brings in gifts, and it's not always the same kind of gifts either. Sometimes you have the opportunity to talk. Sometimes you have the opportunity to correct something. Sometimes you have the opportunity to make a clean break, and it's not always handed to you. Sometimes you have to sit there and actually let the chaos play out a little bit for you to see all sides of the situation. Usually, I don't know about you, but for me, usually I am kind of a blinders on kind of girl. I want to focus on my race. I don't want to worry about who else is in the race with me. I don't care, who's in competition with me or who thinks that they need to be compared to me or who's doing better than I am. I don't care because they're doing it their way for a reason. And I know that I see things differently for a reason. So blinders on, I'm trying to focus on my own path. But sometimes when chaos comes, it forces you to take your blinders off to see exactly what's going on around you and to realize whether you're part of the problem or part of the solution. It's not always a great understanding or a realization. I don't like it. It's very, very uncomfortable for me. But I also know that without these opportunities, I'm going to call them opportunities, without these opportunities, I don't have a chance to correct or improve upon the situations that are going on in my life. For example, let's say I have 5 people living in my house at the moment, right? And each of those 5 people have their own priorities, their own type of, way of living life, their own expectations, their own, goals in life. I'm running out of things to list out here, but they have their own way of doing things. But for me, being the person that is actually funding the house, I need to be okay with all 5 people and how they live their life, unless of course it's a detriment to the household itself. Now if they're wasting water or if they're leaving things around in such a way that it's actually, hazardous for people to walk around in, then I gotta step up and say something. But until then, we all just make a little bit of room. It's really not that big a deal. But when things come to a head, like let's say somebody does something like leave clothes on the floor, right? Once they get in the shower, they leave stuff on the floor and they forget to take it and put it in the wash. And maybe I take it and put it in the wash because, I'm in the bathroom next and I figure, hey, I'll just pick it up and finish whatever's going on. But maybe I forgot to check their pockets. Maybe I washed something that was not meant to be washed and it's something of value. And so I ruined it now because I put it in the wash. I don't get to sit there and be like, well, you left it on the floor. I got to own my piece in that. I do get the opportunity though to let them know, hey, if you were to pick these things up and take care of it yourself, then I wouldn't have to. And yes, I did make a mistake and I'm so sorry, but going forward, can we fix it so that you do your part and I do my part and everything's copacetic? You know what I mean? But it's not always that easy. People get offended when you point out something that you're doing or you think that they're doing that doesn't fit the environment at the moment. Maybe it's a matter of I don't even know where to go with this. Let's see. Maybe it's the idea that baby girl wants to watch TV, right? And she wants to watch a specific kind of TV show, which is fine. But when the family sits down to dinner, what you want is for all of us to be able to sit down and watch the same thing, perhaps, or enjoy something together. But she pitches a fit. So when that happens, she's forcing a confrontation of sorts, and you get the chance to tell them, hey, you know what? I would love for our family to bond together. I would love for all of us to be able to enjoy ourselves together. Maybe for this half an hour or so that we sit down and have dinner, maybe you can give up the TV remote and let us all find something that we can watch together. And then after that, if the TV's free, you're welcome to watch whatever you were watching in the first place. So every crisis comes bearing gifts. Let me talk about the bigger ones too, though, just so you have a little bit more context. Now, I thought that working in the US was going to be this great big thing. I have tons of work experience. I think I've worked there for about 10 years before I came to Singapore. And unfortunately, in those 10 years, I was laid off twice. Not because of bad behavior, you guys, chill, but more because the economy was just kind of failing. So the first time was after 4 years of work in a marketing department where I was running 6 different departments. And I was really, really happy doing what I was doing. I had my hands full. I was up to my earlobes in work. And I felt really, really important. I felt irreplaceable. But it just so happened that they asked me to tie up a couple of loose ends, only to find out that once I handed in that last contract, they gave me the boot. They told me, hey, you know what? We're downsizing. We can't have you in this position anymore. I'm sorry. We got to let you go. That first crisis really turned my life upside down because at the time I was running a house of 5. We had 3 kids and the 2 of us adults in the house, and we were struggling. It was really hard because at the same time my ex-husband was laid off as well. Now it was easier for him because within the week somebody scooped him up because he's a salesperson in timeshare. It's a small market out there. So he got a job almost instantaneously and it was good news for him. But for me, it wasn't as easy. Now, the crisis that was me losing my job brought a gift that I wasn't ready for. It's something that I had to kind of grow into. I had to step up. I had to put on these huge boots that were not my size at all, and I had to kind of slowly grow into them. And what happened was I realized that no matter how much education I had, they can't take the education away from me. But they can suddenly say that because of the education, they can't pay the price point. Or because of my experience in one field or another, I was no longer suited for the job that they had in mind. So it just so happens that they changed management at Wyndham Resorts, and that's part of the reason they were bringing in their own people, which is not unheard of. It happens a lot more than you would like to admit. But when that happens is they're not ready to keep people on who know the system, know the ropes, have tried every possible solution up to date. And because of that, when they ask you to do certain things, you say, no, you can't because you know better. They don't like that answer very much. So that was part of the reason that they said that, they had to let me go, because they felt that they weren't able to get their way with me. And it's not that I was being difficult. I knew the system already, but it gave them cause for concern, and they were not looking forward to having to work around me or go through me every time they needed something done, because I held that much responsibility in the company itself. So the gift that I got out of that crisis was to realize that I am replaceable in life. And that means in my relationship, right? When I divorced my ex-husband, he bounced back real fast. He had another girl living in the house within like a month, I think. That's when my stepdaughter called me and told me about it. So I am replaceable. And that was a very hard lesson for me to learn, because I had built my workaholic self into a position where I thought that I was irreplaceable. They would need me for pretty much everything. But it also backfired on me, because that also meant that I held too much in my hands, and they would rather not go through me every time. They would rather replace me entirely and have people in positions, like maybe 5 people to do my job, but each of those 5 people were yes men and they could get their work done the way they wanted them to. So not the best feeling, not the best gift at the time, because I didn't like what I was seeing. I did not like what it meant for me. But eventually what I realized was, when I'm building someone else's business, I'm always replaceable. When I'm building my own business, it's based on me. I am the brand. I am, the face behind the brand. I am the creative director. I am the content creator. I'm all of those things. So I am not replaceable when it comes to my own business. But for that to happen, I have to have my own business. So that was yet another thing that I wasn't quite ready for, but I knew it was coming. It was something that I had to do. So the second time I got laid off, I realized, okay, you know what? 4 years is probably the max I ever get to work anywhere. Eventually, people start to, move around and management changes, and it happens once again. People are laid off and moved out, and they bring their own people in. It's understandable. I get it now. But I realized with that first layoff and then with the second that I really needed my own brand. I really needed to leave a legacy of my own. I really needed to be building something for myself, something that no one else had any say over. No one could come in and take from me. No one could come in and tell me that, I was doing it wrong or that I wasn't meeting expectations because, hey, it's me. The buck stops with me. And if I do something that's kind of crappy, I got to deal with the consequences, right? So with every crisis, there is a gift. There is a silver lining. It may not seem like it at the time, but at some point you get comfortable and the plateau kind of stops and you have no choice but to level up. You have no choice but to find another way around the situation because maybe you don't have the skill sets yet. Maybe you are looking for a new opportunity, but you're not ready to get up off your ass and let go of the things that have been hurting you this whole time. So like I said, the quote says, "The crisis comes bearing gifts, but you need to put down what you're holding on to." And that was the hardest part for me. I was holding so firmly onto this idea that I was irreplaceable, that I was so good and so worthy and so skillful that no one would ever think to replace me. But it happens more often than you think. And as hard a pill as that was to swallow, I had to. And I had to realize that maybe I could be replaceable to other people. But what I tell myself about my own self-worth in the wake of that is even more important. I had to let go of the idea that other people held my value in their hands, that they were the only ones who could see how important I was, how diligent I was, how hardworking I was, how loyal I was. It didn't matter anymore. I had to be able to see that for myself. Because once I did, I stopped letting anybody, just anybody, come ask me to help them, come ask me to do work for them, come ask me to collaborate with them. I had almost like a standard that I can hold myself to. And that was really, really worth it. I don't think I would have learned that in any other situation. Sometimes it's the failures in life that really teach us what our worth is, where we can actually look for our own happiness, the way that we can heal ourselves from trauma. What do we need to do? Where do we need to go? How do we need to do that? And usually it's not anything outside of ourselves. Usually all of that stuff is inside. So once we stop holding on to someone else's hand, we can realize that, hey, I have everything that I need to survive. I was given every possible skill set, every possible, intellectual capacity for me to get the job done for the purpose that I was sent here for. So it's a matter of finding out what your purpose is, understanding that every calamity comes with some kind of a gift. And when you discover the gift, gosh, you are never the same. You will find ways and means around anything because the more things you survive, the less things frighten you. So if you have any questions, please drop me a line. Let me know what you think in the comments. But in the meantime, you guys, don't be scared of whatever it is that's looming ahead of you. Don't be scared of, what 2021 might hold, what the end of the year might hold. Don't be afraid of any of those things. You've survived everything you've been through to this point, and there's nothing to say that you won't survive the next couple as well. So I love you guys. Take care, and I'll catch you again soon. Bye.